Cloud hosting options for website hosting is gaining popularity in recent times. How much geekiness do you need to jump from regular shared hosting to cloud hosting? Making sense of cloud hosting, its complexities, and its processes. Here is Rajendra Zore explaining it all. So let's welcome Raj on the show and get started. Hi, Raj. How are you?
Hey man, I'm so excited to be here finally on one of my favorite podcasts.
Oh, man.
So thank you for inviting me.
Did you say your favorite podcast?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so before we talk about clouds, let's get back to the earth. On a serious note, before we get on with the cloud hosting, why don't you give a quick introduction about your online life?
Sure. So basically, I all my life I worked in non-IT companies until I started my own. But I have a brief background in computer science because I was one of the students before I dropped out. So before I dropped out in my final year, and I started all kinds of non-IT jobs. But in between, I was really keeping my passion afloat because I was one of the coders then,
Mhm.
probably a decade back or something, if you can say. But until 2012, I have just worked on all sorts of non-IT jobs, from working in McDonald's to working in call centers, then working in investigation firms and all that. But nothing actually grabbed me, to the ground, because once a geek, always a geek. That sort of a thing. So back in 2012, when I decided to finally start something on my own, the only option that I could think about is providing some web solutions. And that was the time I started my first company. And that is when I officially started with WordPress. So back in 2012 is my first introduction and my first personal interaction with WordPress. And I remember building my first website almost 50 times. So yeah, so I created a local environment using WAMP, and that time themes and plugins and widget, everything was so new for me. So if at all I miss out or mess something, I used to just destroy everything and start building it all over again. And it was a good project basically, and it was a great start. But that is how I got into WordPress. That is how I officially got into the online world, you can say. And from that point onward, yeah, please tell me.
Okay, cool. Now you have a story of, say, like Steve Jobs dropped out of the college.
Honestly, dropping out of the college, a lot of youngsters, they find it really cool. But I was really helpless at
but
that point of
but not
time.
in India, man.
Uh, no, I really wanted to pursue my final year because I was one of the good students in computer science. I have completed my second year, but apparently I met with an accident when I was in my second year,
Mhm.
and I couldn't pursue my final year for both the reasons, due to my health issues and of course the financial reasons at the same time.
Mhm.
So I decided to kind of work for a year and then get back to the college. So I worked for a year, took my admission, but honestly, I couldn't able to focus, and I was too much into work already. And I started to interacting with the real corporate world, and I realized that all it takes is a real hard work back there, and not a single book is going to help you out there. So I was much more on myself out there. So I couldn't get back to studies, honestly. But dropping out was not a choice for me.
Yeah, doing the real thing and understanding the things, how they work. So today we're going to talk about cloud hosting and understand the concept of it. So someone who
Yeah.
is more accustomed to using GoDaddy, HostGator, SiteGround, or maybe even WP Engine for
Hmm.
website hosting, how would you define the concept of cloud hosting to that kind of an audience?
Okay, so when we talk about all these hosting providers, we are majorly talking about cPanel hosting. All right. And cPanel has been in this ecosystem for a really long time. In fact, when I started with the hosting, I was 18, 19 at them. And that was my first interaction with the cPanel hosting back in 2007. And I was really intrigued with how simple this whole concept is. You don't have to get to the back end of it, and it's all just plug and play. But as I got deeper into hosting, I realized that what is the difference between the shared hosting, the VPS, the dedicated hosting, the whole infrastructure, and its direct indirect impact on our applications, our websites. From that point onward, I think I started taking uh, hosting very seriously, and I decided that this whole information should go out. The hosting, the whole hosting concept should be delivered to not just the techies but also to the non-techies. So with that vision, I remember back in 2015, I started Host My Blog, and the idea was really simple: to help the bloggers take a leap to the self-hosted blogging. And it took some time. It took 8 to 10 months to get into the blogger sphere, but ultimately the bloggers started trusting us. They got the courage to move their bloggers, the blogspot blogs, to a self-hosted WordPress environment. And I was really surprised to know that these guys have been blogging for over a decade, and it was kind of a responsibility at that point of time. And I remember spending time with each and every blogger, explaining them the concept of shared hosting, the concept of VPS, the concept of dedicated hosting. But over the time, like this was back in 2015, and to be really honest, I was impressed with where the cloud hosting is moving, but I was not well versed with the whole technology, because it's been a long time that I am into programming or servers. So for me, understanding the unmanaged server infrastructure was next to impossible. Okay. But initially I started with the shared hosting concepts. But later on, I realized that the cloud hosting is the next thing, you know, because cloud hosting has its own advantage. It is really good for your applications performance, security, scalability, for that matter. If the traffic is growing, you have a complete flexibility to increase the resources on your server. So that kind of a flexibility, that kind of a power came into my mind. But again, the challenge was, this is not the thing that every website owner can use it easily. There's always a challenge to get started with such an unmanaged infrastructure. And it still is a challenge, until and unless we give that knowledge to the end user. And that is when the concept of RunCloud came into picture,
Mm-hmm.
where we have developed uh, a control panel, which fits right onto the unmanaged servers. Okay. But initially we got compared with, are you guys competing with cPanel or something like that? I think cPanel is more of an epitome of server panels. So we wouldn't say no, but yeah, we try to have a simplified panel, and we wanted to focus on simplifying the cloud hosting, because cloud hosting is cost effective at the same time. Like take an example of DigitalOcean. You can pick up a $5 droplet, and you can set up your whole hosting infrastructure. So we have built this the panel. And initially we were completely focused on the developers, because we thought that the developers is the only niche that is comfortable with cloud hosting. But to our surprise, last year in December 2018, when me and my partners, we were sitting and we were checking the user statistics,
Mm-hmm.
we were surprised to see that more than 70% users are from WordPress. And then it got to us like, let's simplify our product more for this community, because a lot of WordPress users are happy to use our product. They are moving to the cloud hosting platforms, and probably we can further simplify it and give them more features to feel more comfortable. So early this year, our CTO took a step to simplify the panel completely. So the first step was to actually rebuild the entire architecture. So our architecture was initially working fine. We were giving out the features for the developers and all. But the moment we thought of serving that 70%, more than 70% of the community, which is WordPress, we had to rebuild the entire RunCloud architecture from ground up. And that is when we first introduced and launched on 3rd of August the one-click server installation and one-click WordPress installation.
So you
So
are
earlier,
basically
yeah,
simplifying the RunCloud for WordPress users.
absolutely. We are very much focused on that at the moment, because more than our 70% users are WordPress users, and
And
it becomes a duty to kind of simplify it further for them.
okay, let's circle back a little to cPanel now. We are so used to using cPanel, and cPanel
Yes.
has loads of options. And when you move
Yeah.
from a cPanel hosting to a cloud hosting, you know, the lot of options vanish, right? How do you address this vanishing of cPanel and going into more simplified? Is that a scary experience for someone who's used to cPanel with lots of options to a panel that would only give the basic option? Is it a good thing, bad thing, or the right thing?
Let me start by saying that cPanel could be overwhelming for any new user,
Yeah.
because it has a lot of options, and I can guarantee you that even if you've been using cPanel for over a decade now,
Hmm.
you haven't touched at least 70% of the features in that,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
So yeah, so RunCloud is more like focused on the basic necessities, keeping the whole feature options and panel less overwhelming for the new users, and giving the features that are required when you are on your own with the server and managing the server. So I would say that if you are coming from cPanel, you will actually be surprised to see how simple it is, and we don't need tens of hundreds of options of features to manage our server. And these are the list of options that are more than enough to run an application successfully and manage it. So I would say that there'll be definitely a learning curve. Okay, like back in 2003, if we see when WordPress has started, people were quite comfortable with HTML sites and Dreamweaver and whatnot, right? But over the time, people had their share of learning, and they have accepted this new content management system wave that was coming. So I think somebody has to take a step to make the unmanaged servers all DIY like WordPress.
Okay, now
So
I'm gonna quote you here. I want everyone to leverage the power of cloud infrastructure without really worrying about the complex processes. Now, isn't this too good to be true? Because cloud hosting and technical complexities do go hand in hand.
yeah, okay. So let me share this thing very honestly and be transparent here. I'm not a system admin. I'm not even an engineer. I'm not a DevOps. Okay,
Okay.
but I am successfully managing over 500 WordPress sites for my clients, and hundreds of my clients are hosted on cloud hosting.
Okay.
The entire cloud hosting is managed by me. Okay, despite being not a system admin and DevOps, I am still able to manage all these sites. It's only because of the simplicity that we are providing through our panel. And I'm not saying that just RunCloud. There are other panels also. Our message is that there is server pilot. I don't mind mentioning that. There is a cyber panel. So there are many other panels that are available. The whole idea or the vision that we are carrying is to give out a message, to give out the right information and education to every user, to be more confident. Why stay stuck with the shared hosting when probably you can just pay 30% or 40% of your investment and have the high performing cloud infrastructure. So when I said that I want to make sure that the cloud is easy for every user and not just the developer, I mean it, because uh, back in 2003, let me get back to there. If a blogger really want to get started, he or she has to depend on a developer, right? But today I see, because I'm managing a lot of bloggers, and I can see how confident they are setting up their own blog, setting up their own website, and getting started with their online journey. Exactly the same way, this is a new revolution that is coming. This is a new wave that is coming, and it is definitely going to take time. But over the course of time, people will definitely get comfortable getting a $5 droplet and putting up some sort of a server management panel and being on their own.
Okay, now
Later on,
let,
yeah,
let's do let's do let's do a mindset talk. Now you are already using cloud hosting. Let's say, for example, a
yes,
person who is not using cloud hosting and wants to get into cloud hosting. What are the
hmm,
few perceived complexities or problems he already would have in the mind before jumping into cloud hosting? One, I can definitely tell you it's too complex for me to do it. Second would
okay,
be like, if something breaks, man, who the hell gonna help me? Because in shared hosting, there's always a support thing, better support thing as compared to cloud. Because in cloud, you are supposed to manage more things on your hand rather than the hosting support. So how do you clear these perceived problems for a person who want to jump it or who has jumped in and now feeling the heat?
okay. So the very first challenge that comes, see, everyone wants to start or experience the new options that are available in the market,
Yeah.
but at the same time, they want to make sure what they're jumping into. They want to make sure the after sales support, or how the support is, what if something goes wrong. And with cloud hosting, there is so much on the command line still, and it's scary. You cannot expect a WordPress user, an average WordPress user, to just open the terminal, SSH
Yeah.
into a server, and start troubleshooting. Now, when I mentioned all the other panels, which I equally respect, and I really like that they are also on the same mission.
Hmm.
But when we at RunCloud decided to dive into the WordPress ecosystem, because of course, realizing that more than 70% users are WordPress users, we made sure the first strategy before we got onto writing that fresh first line of code for the architecture. The first thing we worked on was the support team. Our support is not limited to, okay, something went wrong with the RunCloud panel, we will give you support. No, anything related to WordPress, anything related to your server, anything related to the panel, the support team will help you out with that. So when you get to the support, you'll be like, oh, this is kind of a managed hosting atmosphere. But that level of comfort we are assuring at RunCloud. So the first step is the support, which is 24/7. And we make sure that when you put out a query to us, we don't send you to your server provider or your CMS provider. We make sure that we are troubleshooting that query for you right there. And you are completely protected with the full support, just like any managed hosting is giving. But let me clarify, we are not a web hosting company. Even if our support is of that level, we
Hmm.
are not a managed hosting company, and we never want to be a managed hosting company or any sort of a hosting company. We in fact want to bring in the knowledge to the market, where people are getting much more comfortable using the better infrastructure for their applications.
Okay, now
So
I was
support
on
is,
I was on
yeah,
the RunCloud
yeah,
website and it read, managing your server shouldn't be a rocket science. Now, guess what? It is a
absolutely.
rocket science for someone who is at best can navigate within WordPress dashboard. I'm talking for a person with that technical. So, what level of tech know-how is needed for cloud hosting management from a perspective of a person who's managing the website and he or she is only comfortable navigating the WordPress dashboard?
Yeah. So the first thing is, yes, it is not a rocket science anymore. Okay, it was a rocket science for me a couple of years back, but it is not a rocket science anymore.
It has taken off.
And I can vouch. Pardon?
Rocket has taken off.
Yeah, and it's successfully launching as well. So no crash. So definitely, it is not a rocket science anymore.
Okay.
Cloud is the future, and it is about time each one of us should start moving toward that. But at the same time, when we claim you quoted me on what I said, and plus this statement that we made. When we make such bold statement, we make sure that it is easier for anyone to get started with the cloud hosting.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, even like you said, even if you're using any sort of a managed hosting, a lot of WordPress managed hostings are providing their own panel, to be very honest. Okay. And if somebody is using cPanel for that matter, any user who is running their website, they are comfortable with file manager, they are comfortable with running their backups, they are comfortable with a couple of operations that are required, and those operations or those functions are right one click away. So when you see RunCloud panel, okay, RunCloud panel is also designed in the similar way, where you don't have to access all the options, and that is where the support comes into picture. You are just a basic WordPress user. You have got started with the cloud hosting. You brought your own favorite cloud. You connected that with the RunCloud panel. For example, you have to modify your htaccess file. There is a file manager for it. And you don't even have to download that and then edit it and upload it back. We have online editor for that. So that kind of a simplicity has been taken care of. Suppose you come across some kind of a challenges where you're saying that, oh, your SSL is not working, or maybe the website is not loading properly. The support is there for it. So the moment you open a ticket, the support will help you through, even if it's a WordPress related query or a cloud related query. They will help you understand the issue, and they will help you sort it out. So the comfort is same. It is all about you taking that first step of getting started with the cloud hosting. So it is complicated until you start. So the first step is just get that droplet, connect it to the panel, and see how it is. Spin your first WordPress site and see for yourself how it is. All about the support and all that is taken care of. So I think that's pretty much an assurance that we are there at every step.
Okay, with the current level of maturity in the cloud hosting ecosystem, now, would you recommend cloud hosting just for agency owners or someone who's managing various client websites, or DIY users can also jump in and test waters?
Okay. So out of 70+% that I'm claiming on the RunCloud are the WordPress users, you'll be surprised to know that close to 30% are individual users. So there are individual users who are bloggers, who are running their own store or own WordPress sites, and they have been using it. So the percentage is relatively low when we see the agency owners who are providing the services and hosting to their clients. But definitely the individual users are also leveraging the power of cloud hosting. And I'm sure that once they realize that there is a support, and it's not that you just put the panel and now you're on your own. The moment this message goes out that there is a support which is there hand holding at every step, even after the setup is done, I think more and more individual users will be confident to leverage it and start using it, even if it's for a very simple site. So I must say that we are ready for the individual users, and in the time, in the future, like in couple of weeks or months, I think individual user will also start showing up and start exploring it. It's just a matter of right knowledge to go out.
Now, in shared hosting providers, they generally have their own server infrastructure, but in cloud hosting, we are using the infrastructure of specific providers like Linode, DigitalOcean, Google Cloud. There's so many of them. So how do you decide which one to use? Isn't this like selecting a new hosting provider altogether?
Absolutely. Now that's a matter of choice. There is a lot of competition, and a lot of people, they have their own liking, just like any other hosting provider. For example, a lot of people prefer digital hosting. So DigitalOcean is very easy. The brand is out there, and it's quite a top level cloud provider. So a lot of people just follow the brand and they want to use DigitalOcean. But some of the serious users, they go for Linode, they go for Vultr. But at the same time, what I see is the scalability. So the first thing about cloud hosting is we can scale the server. For example, if I start with 1 GB server and tomorrow I see my traffic is growing and I have to scale up to 2 GB or 4 GB, that scalability is the main thing that everyone need to check. So with my recent test, I think UpCloud as of right now is the only cloud provider. I could be wrong on this. I'm sure, but at this time when I'm saying this thing, I have tested UpCloud, and I think that is the only provider which lets you scale up and down. For example, I'll give you an example of a blogger. So during the festival season, they expect the traffic to go up, and maybe during that time they need 4 GB RAM, just to handle that traffic. Now the festive season is over, they don't need that 4 GB RAM anymore, so they will scale it down to 2 GB or 1 GB, that sort of a thing. But the other cloud provider, they only let you scale up, and if you want to scale down, you have to set up the whole fresh server, and you have to get started all over again. So these are the basic features. These are the couple of features that one need to keep in mind, and I'm sure I will make sure that a good comparison of all the cloud providers are available on RunCloud website very soon, so that it will be easier for people to choose and voice their opinion and
And
experience.
do you at RunCloud recommend any specific cloud provider, or leave it all at users' discretion?
Leave it all at users discretion, because they are the one, they need to do their own comparison, because we can recommend, but we don't want to be biased, and we support not just the cloud provider. For example, if your own hosting provider, for example, let's say A2 hosting. Okay, now A2 hosting provides cPanel hostings, right? But they also have unmanaged servers, unmanaged VPS servers. You can even go for that. Like a lot of our clients, we are serving in 80 plus countries. So a lot of our users, they are using the local hosting providers. So what they do is, they were on the cPanel hosting with them. They switched to their unmanaged VPS servers, and now they are using RunCloud panel on it. So you're not limited just with the cloud providers that are there in the market. You can also pick up the unmanaged VPS server from your favorite hosting provider, and that's okay.
Cool.
So I
Now,
think that's a plus. That's an upside.
I've heard this somewhere. Future is hosting in the cloud. So since the future is cloud, now recently a popular hosting company, Flywheel, it went all cloud using Google Cloud Platform, and they ditched their own servers. Now, are we expecting traditional hosting companies to transition into cloud space, or new companies are expected to take the pie of cloud hosting?
I was following this news about Flywheel switching completely to Google Cloud, and that's a great step taken. Now, the thing is, why that step? Why moving to a cloud infrastructure?
Mhm.
It's because they understand the kind of the scalability they can have with the cloud, the performance they can assure, because they are getting into the managed WooCommerce, managed WordPress and all that stuff, and that requires high performance. When you assure something managed, it requires a performance, it requires a security, all at the server level. Okay, so definitely over the course of time, I think there'll be more and more hosting providers. They'll be moving to such cloud infrastructure, and you never know. It's just because Google Cloud is such a top competitor in the market and such a big brand name. They were quite open about moving to Google Cloud, maybe to assure the end users that they are in the good hands. But I personally know so many agencies from Europe itself. They have been using DigitalOcean. They've been using UpCloud for that matter, because UpCloud is one of the top cloud providers in Europe market. So they have been using this thing for their clients. So I think the portion of the hosting market is moving toward cloud. and I think it is only going to go up, because a lot of servers are now so outdated, and they cannot even do any changes to that. I'm talking about the shared hosting providers. They have been still using the old infrastructure, and it has been causing a lot of downtime. And I think they all will be moving to the cloud providers. So I think that is the only way to go. And it's better if every individual starts taking a call on the same, I think.
Yeah, and cPanel changing its pricing has already fluttered few hosting companies to ditch cPanel and go all out. Like SiteGround has ditched cPanel and they will be going all custom panel. And when you have a custom panel, you can always plug that to a cloud hosting easily rather than
Absolutely.
legacy
Yeah.
system of cPanel. Now, just to wrap things up, now someone who's listening this and saying, "Oh man, cloud hosting is cool. I should definitely check it out." Obviously, it will save you money. It will also give you more server power for the dollar that you spend. But it also
Yes.
comes with the technicalities, and I have to spend more time figuring out things. How can you assure on that part of figuring out things?
All right. So number one, as I keep saying, that there's a learning curve. When you start with something new, there's always a learning curve. Okay.
Okay.
Like when I started with WordPress, I had no clue whether I should pronunciate as Wiget or Widget. So, so there's always a learning curve. And today, when I see myself so comfortable, not just that, but to be very honest, cloud hosting has double my own income in the company. So obviously, this is also a service which you can provide. And when you are starting with it, when you're starting with it, so we receive a lot of emails which are kind of a pre-sale emails, where an average WordPress user or an average user, they approach us. They say that I really want to get started with cloud hosting and I want to use your panel, but I'm not confident on the first initial connection, because before 3rd of August, we only had one way to connect your cloud server to our panel, and that was SSH into your server and run the installer script. And it used to fear a lot of average users away. They were not comfortable with SSH. But today we have, the one-click server installation. Okay, so this shows that we are definitely taking a step towards the non-techie community that we want to serve. So all they have to do is, the moment they take their website or their cloud server from the provider, they will get the root password. All they have to do is get your IP address and the root password and just drop it in the panel and click install, and the installation will happen on its own. And once the installation is done, you will receive the whole dashboard, and the options, I can assure you, they are not new to you. File manager, SSL, domain name. So it's such kind of an options that are available, which may not freak you out. But at the same time, we receive a lot of emails before people switch to it, that can you help us? And then we definitely help them. They they spin their server at the provider, they share the root password and IP with us, and we help them set up. So I think initially we will be receiving a lot of such requests, and we are ready for it. But at the same time, through the channels like yours, we can do a lot of live webinars and make sure that the individuals are becoming more and more confident to take that first step of setting up their panel. And after that, our support is right there to help them at every step.
Awesome. So cloud hosting looks cool and probably is easy. It depends on person you are asking. Probably it will get easy for more people as the time goes by, but definitely it's getting easier as it's getting popular. So let's shift gear and talk about your toolbox. So what are your current 5 favorite tools that power your online business?
Okay. All right. So before I could reveal that, I wanted to share
other than RunCloud, obviously. So
no, sure. I'll share that. And I'm not a person who would invest unnecessarily into tools, buying tools that I'm never going to use. immediately. So definitely I will reveal the set of tools I use every day to manage 500 plus WordPress sites that I have. But before that, I wanted to share this funny incident happened back in 2015
Mm-hmm.
when I was getting started with host my blog.
Okay.
And I was so obsessed to kind of have my own server and set up it on my own and provide it to the users and all that. So with that vision, I contacted AWS. Now okay, I made a complete fool out of myself at that moment of time because I was not aware how this entire unmanaged cloud infrastructure works. And the first step I had to take was to embarrass myself was AWS, which is one of the complex one to configure, which
And,
is not anymore with
and
RunCloud.
but it's
So
still complex for a lot of people, let me tell you.
yeah. So I contacted them. On the first call, they were very welcoming and very professional, and they were discussing the product with me and all that. From the second call onward, they realized that this guy have no clue how this thing works, and they actually shut me down, But I did not took that as an offense. I was like, this is definitely a learning curve for me, and I'm not giving up on a thought of if I want to use AWS. I want to use AWS and nobody can stop me or nobody can tell me that I cannot do that. And I don't have to go back to school or college to learn the entire system admin just to run that particular infrastructure. And okay, I paused that thought for that moment of time. But today I can assure you, you throw any cloud at me, be it a Google Cloud or AWS or anything, with the kind of panel that we are working on, the RunCloud, or maybe any other management panel for that matter. It depends on how they are putting it out. All this infrastructure, be it AWS or whatever, it has been simplified. And today I'm so happy that finally the thought which was there at that point of time that it is simple. If everyone can use a CMS, that is a content management system, to build website, why there is no CMS for unmanaged server infrastructure? And we have a CMS, that is a cloud management system. So I'm really happy that the things are changing. The only thing that is left is giving out the right information and education. Okay. So this was just an embarrassing thing that I wanted to share, but it was a learning experience for me. And I'm really happy where I'm standing today with the cloud infrastructure. Coming back to the kind of toolbox I have is, let me start with how I start my day. So the first thing is I open my Gmail. So that's the first thing I use. I don't use any other fancy email box. I'm comfortable with Gmail. The second most important thing, and I use it every single day, is main WP. So main WP, I use it for managing all my sites. And I have created a batch of main WP setup. So because it's really flexible. So I have multiple batch of main WP setup, and that is what I primarily use for updating my WordPress sites and doing the basic maintenance. Then the third tool, which plays a real important role in my life, and I really thank for its existence, is Blog Vault backups, migration, and Malcare. So I am really impressed with the seamless backup system they have. Plus they have the staging system also. So I use Blog Vault for almost everything that I want to do. Then I think, Gmail, main WP, Blog Vault. That's pretty much the tools that I use every single day. There's nothing other than that.
Now, next question would be more interesting for you. Which is your recommended web hosting service?
Recommended web hosting service.
I should have asked you, which is your recommended cloud hosting provider?
No. This is not a difficult question for me. I would say that don't go with who is your favorite web hosting company or something. I would definitely recommend that go with the right set of team. Make sure the company that provides you the after sales support, because selling a product is not a big deal, but keeping and being with the customer all through their journey is really important. And I really salute SiteGround for the excellent support that they are assuring.
I'll,
And
I love SiteGround, to be
yeah,
honest, just for their support. Obviously, the servers are good,
yeah.
but their support is excellent.
Yeah, I don't want to comment on their infrastructure and all, because many of my own clients use SiteGround and all. So as a person coming from the same industry, I could be critical. I don't want to get there, but definitely I appreciate them for the kind of support they provide. So all I can say is very diplomatically that pick the right team. Make sure that once your application is on their infrastructure, they are assuring you a better support.
Okay.
And because support is everything. Anybody can give you the infrastructure which is better than the other person, but I think the support is really important when things go south. So I
Okay.
think
So
whoever provides the best.
So last question, any upcoming tool or service that has caught your eye attention recently?
uh, Upcoming service as in the third party services,
Any service, any
or
tool that you found interesting and is new?
absolutely. So let me mention this thing, WP Feedback. Revolutionary product. Vito, bro, you have done an excellent job, and I really appreciate him for that. Because trust me, I'm really intrigued with the kind of product that is. And I have been working on this website, and it's been quite some time that we have been exchanging feedback over emails and Excel sheets and Google Docs and all that. And by the time we get to the implementation phase, we are lost, like exactly which section the client was mentioning about. And just 1 week back, I have implemented WP Feedback. I requested the client that can you please go back, use this tool which we have integrated, and leave your inputs or feedback. And the client himself was happy. Like, Raj, this is really simple. Like, I can actually go section wise. I can pick any paragraph, I can pick any image and all that. So I think it is definitely a great product, and I'm really happy. Like, seriously, like much needed.
Vito is amazing. He did appear on this show a few episodes back, and his product.
Yes,
it's like a passion project for him, and he's adding a lot of new features. And so someone who's listening and not sure what we're talking about, we are talking about wpfeedback.co. WP Feedback is a plugin for WordPress users where your clients can leave feedback for your design stuff on your website. So yep, amazing product from an amazing person. He's a real rock star. So
yeah, we were together in London, we were together in Berlin during the WordCamp Europe. And the kind of roadmap, the kind of vision Vito is following with WP Feedback is something to count on. There is a lot of big things that are coming down the way, and he has done some research also, some amazing research. He was handing out that survey to every attendee, and it was a great research that he has done. So I think he's definitely delivering the product with the definite research, and I think he has been using this product in-house for a long time. So I think we should be rest assured that it is a well-tested product.
So before we wrap this episode, where can people find you?
Where can people find me? I'm all over the web, but I'm very active on Twitter. Okay. I'm active on Facebook. And I'm active through RunCloud. So Raj at runcloud.io. Throw anything at me and I'll be there.
Okay,
I'll
put all the links in the show notes. So
definitely.
Let's wrap this episode. It was amazing talking to you about cloud hosting.
Likewise.
Few things got cleared in my head also, because I'm also kind of a newbie for cloud hosting, honestly speaking, because I've been using SiteGround for so many years now, and they've still been really good to me. So, but no, I'm trying something shiny that is actually also useful, like cloud hosting. So thank you so much for sharing all the goodness about cloud hosting. I'm sure even
thank
love
you for having
doing
me.
that. So have a good day.
Thank you.